All you can eat. I can't believe a room only costs us $99 a night.
$99?
For both of you?
How did you get such a great deal?
Hotels.com.
Hotels.com.
Save on thousands of hotels worldwide. Hotels.com. The best prices at the best places, guaranteed.
CNN Tuesday, Senator Hillary Clinton speaks out in her first live interview for her new tell-all book. She talks about everything. Senator Hillary Clinton, in depth and personal. Only on Larry King Live, CNN Tuesday, 9 Eastern.
Thanks for joining us for this fabulous hour with John Eisenhower on this edition of Larry King Weekend. The book is General-like, a personal reminiscence. Stay tuned for news around the clock on CNN, the most trusted name in news. Good night.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
From CNN Global Headquarters in Atlanta, this is CNN Sunday Night. I'm Andrea Koppel. Anderson Cooper is off tonight. Coming up, he's on tape but not yet caught. New surveillance video is released, but will it help investigators find a missing 9-year-old boy? Plus, could Hillary Rodham Clinton's new book be a prelude to a presidency? And will fans stand by the goddess of good taste even if she trades in her apron for an orange jumpsuit? All that and more ahead on CNN Sunday Night. A home security camera has provided police in San Jose with potentially valuable clues in the abduction of a 9-year-old girl Friday. We get the latest from Tara Lofstrom of KRON.
Any pieces of clothing or anything that looks out of place?
More than 100 search and rescue workers are scouring creeks, combing fields, and hiking through heavy brush, searching for signs of Jeanette Tamayo.
We are looking for anything that's out of the ordinary. We're also looking for any type of plants laying over, any type of movement that would like knock down the brush in the
71 Tom 910-4.
Police say Friday the 9-year-old girl was kidnapped from her San Jose home, her mother and brother savagely beaten.
Everything in this case strikes me as odd. It's very, very... The only thing I think that will set people at ease is that this was not a random attack.
And now footage released from a neighbor's surveillance camera paints a disturbing picture. Kids play basketball as an unsuspecting Tamayo walks home from school. Her alleged kidnapper has already staked out the house and is inside.
That he had probably 20, 25 minutes at the house, and we think he had access. He could have gotten in because there was a broken window in the back. So if it was just a burglary, he had plenty of time to burglarize the house, but he waited for this little girl to come home, and that makes it even more chilling.
This is the suspect's car peeling away with Jeanette in the back seat. Authorities describe it as a silver 4-door midsize vehicle with chrome wheels, tinted rear windows, and license plates starting with the number 5. Police are also investigating another car that pulled up next to the suspect for what they believe was a brief conversation.
The suspicions are mounting because somebody had to have some information that they gave to this suspect about this family. And
the suspect is only described as a Hispanic male adult in his 30s or 40s, 5'2" to 5'5", 160 pounds, with a bite mark on his finger and deep scratches on his face and arms where Jeanette's mother clawed him.
That was Tara Lofstrom of our affiliate KRON. Here are some of the other stories making news tonight across America. A New York City woman is charged with manslaughter for allegedly beating her ex-boyfriend to death outside of a Brooklyn nightclub. Wire services say she used a size 12 high-heel shoe. According to the medical examiner's office, the 51-year-old victim was killed early this morning by chest compression and multiple wounds to the head, neck, and torso. A fifth body has been found at the site where a small plane crashed into a Los Angeles apartment building on Friday. 4 of the victims were aboard the plane. The other was in the building. They have not been identified. No launch today for the Mars rover. Maybe tomorrow. The threat of thunderstorms scrubbed today's planned liftoff. The one-way trip to Mars will take about 7 months. An identical rocket is also going to be sent hurtling to the red planet later this month. Supreme Court justices are appointed for life, but there is talk in Washington now that a couple of them may pack it in sooner rather than later. And that could be huge. With more on what it means, here's CNN's Chris Burns.
The battle lines are already drawn, the war games pondered, and the fight is being waged over the airwaves, over the future makeup of the highest court of the land. There's talk in Washington that conservative Chief Justice William Rehnquist and Justice Sandra Day O'Connor may soon retire, perhaps after the court wraps up its session late this month. Judicial sources say no word yet of retirement, and the White House won't comment. But one consultant says he recently met with Bush administration officials on how to battle opponents in any confirmation process.
We're playing real catch-up to try to be able to provide the White House with some sort of counter to the attacks that the White House is going to get from them.
The key issue galvanizing administration critics is the fear that new Bush-appointed justices could help roll back Roe v. Wade, the 30-year-old Supreme Court decision legalizing abortion. One pro-choice group is waging a preemptive strike.
There's still time to protect your right to choose.
And the Democrats have already made it a campaign issue.
That if George Bush can put a lot of new judges on the Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade is endangered.
The White House declines to take a position on Roe v. Wade, but it says it supports a, quote, culture of life. The Republicans are also on the attack, with ads criticizing the Democrats for filibustering other Bush judicial nominees, including Miguel Estrada for Federal Appeals Court.
But the radical left says he's not liberal enough.
The Bush administration is hoping it can learn from the Republicans' failed nomination of Robert Bork and their successful nomination of Clarence Thomas, who C. Boyden Gray, as then White House counsel, helped shepherd through.
Well, it was the Bork nomination which really changed it, which made it into something of a political circus.
A circus the Bush administration would hope to avoid this time around, and one which could be avoided, either by justices stepping down soon or by waiting until after next year's election circus. Chris Burns, CNN, the White House.
For some additional insight into the politics of Supreme Court nominations, here is CNN's political analyst, Bill Schneider.
Until the 1980s, the Senate typically voted to confirm or reject Supreme Court nominees based on their qualifications. That changed with President Ronald Reagan's nomination of Robert Bork in 1987. The Senate rejected Bork's nomination because his views on issues like abortion and civil rights were considered too extreme. So maybe President Bush should nominate someone whose views on issues like abortion and affirmative action are unknown. His father did that when he nominated David Souter to the Supreme Court in 1990. But Souter has often voted with court liberals on issues like abortion. Conservatives are determined to resist any nominee of unknown reliability. No more Souters. When the first President Bush nominated Clarence Thomas in 1991, the battle over his conservative ideology turned into a battle over his personal behavior. In 1991, Democrats controlled the Senate, just as they did when Bork was nominated. Southern Democratic senators were the swing voters. Southern Democrats survive only with the support of African American voters. Polls in 1987 showed that blacks opposed Robert Bork's confirmation because they thought he would roll back civil rights. So most Southern Democratic senators voted against Bork, and he was rejected. Polls in 1991 showed that most blacks supported Clarence Thomas, even though his accuser was a black woman, especially after Thomas depicted the confirmation hearing as a high-tech political lynching. Southern Democratic senators voted to confirm Thomas, and he was elevated to the court. Now Republicans hold the Senate by a slim majority. The swing votes are cast by moderate Republican senators like Lincoln Chafee of Rhode Island and Olympia Snowe of Maine. They survive only with the support of women. This year, the crucial question in any battle over a Bush nominee is likely to be, how do soccer moms feel? Bill Schneider, CNN, Washington.
Based on the rhetoric, you would think that Roe v. Wade is the only issue facing the U.S. Supreme Court. Of course, it is not. Our guest tonight offers some perspective on the bigger picture that is the High Court. Martha Zoller is a radio talk show host with WDUN in the Atlanta area. And Julian Epstein is a Democratic strategist and former chief counsel to the House Judiciary Committee. I just want to kind of throw this out there. The fact that Roe versus Wade isn't the only issue, controversial issue out there, is true, but it is certainly one of the most controversial issues. Do you see that changing if either Judge Rehnquist and Sandra Day O'Connor, who were the two oldest members, if either one of them leaves? Mr. Epstein?
Yes, I think you hit on it exactly right. I think the issue for conservatives is really social progressivism, as identified by both abortion issues, affirmative action, and I think the general federalism scheme, the balance of power between the federal government and the states. The Bush administration, I think, is not going to be quite straight with us about this if there are 1 or 2 vacancies, which I think there will be. I think there will be 2. I think the Bush administration will put up candidates who know that they can't because of the politics of the United States, the general politics. They won't be out there saying that they want to repeal Roe versus Wade, but because of the politics of the Republican Party, they'll be saying they can't accept the status quo. They'll be trying to chip away with things like parental notification and things like partial birth abortion. So I think they're going to, abortion will certainly be the key issue, and I think you'll see any nominee by this Bush administration chipping away at the legal foundations of the Roe decision.
Ms. Zoller, the fact of the matter is that both Judge Rehnquist and Sandra Day O'Connor are Republicans. So aren't we talking about a net difference which actually has none if they're replaced by another Republican?
Well, and I tell you what, Roe v. Wade, of course, is the issue everyone wants to talk about. But what I really want to see is a strict constructionist for the Constitution, because if you don't have a strict constructionist, you get decisions like Plessy versus Ferguson that supported separate but equal, and not decisions like Brown versus the Board of Education, which was a strict constructionist decision. But as far as it being a net for the administration, it really is. But as we saw with Sandra Day O'Connor and Justice Souter, that when you get on the high court, you can't always predict how people are going to vote, because that is a great responsibility that they have, and they vote differently sometimes than you think they would, and you can name many, many examples of that.
Andrea, a quick point about that. It isn't a net the same, because Sandra Day O'Connor essentially supports the basic tenets of the Roe decision, and she's upheld it in a number of cases. So it is not net the same. As far as strict constructionism, the best legal scholars in the country often cannot agree what strict constructionism means. So it's a term that's increasingly losing its meaning.
Well, that's why we have 9 justices.
The other thing that's quite ironic is one of the things that the Bush administration, through its judicial nominees, wants to do is to end affirmative action. But at the same time, and I don't hear anybody pointing this out, and I think it's an ultimate irony, at the same time, they are using affirmative action, and I support affirmative action, but they're using affirmative action in the selection, the actual selection of judicial candidates who they then want to end affirmative action. It's an incredible irony that nobody talks about.
Well, but they do have the most diverse group of people we've ever seen being put up.
Because of their practice of affirmative action, which they want to end.
Well, you don't know if that's the case. You're saying that these people are not qualified.
Oh, excuse me. I didn't say anything about qualifications. Republicans themselves, and this has been covered extensively, are out there admitting that in the selection of judicial candidates, the Bush administration is actively engaged in affirmative action.
So, Julian, what you're
looking
saying,
for the right candidates,
Julian,
which I think is a good thing. I think
Julian,
it's a good
that's
thing.
right. What you're
but
saying
the irony
is the Republicans are better at reaching out than the Democrats are.
No, I'm not saying that.
Let's jump in here for 1 second.
No, I'm not. I'm really not saying that at all. You really missed the point. I'm saying
I tell you what, Mr. Epstein.
In their position.
Terrific. Let's just move on to another point here, and that is the lobbying that is going on really by both sides of the aisle right now, gearing up for what may not happen. What do you make of this, of the preparations, both in terms of television ads, in terms of getting all their ducks in a row? Is this unusual to happen now?
Well, it's the normal process of American politics where time is becoming telescoped. Everyone wants to get a jump start into the media. The White House is looking at their list of candidates, and the liberals, the Democrats, the interest organizations are already planning, as you pointed out with television ads, to come out and build major campaigns. I would say one thing, which is I think it's good that we have this debate. I think it's important to have a debate about the direction of the country, the role of the law in the direction of the country. I hope that the debate does not become personal, and I hope that Democrats and liberals don't fall into the trap that I think conservatives used a lot of the time during the Clinton administration.
But Ms. Zoller, I mean, the fact of the matter is neither Judge Rehnquist nor Judge O'Connor has announced that they're going to retire, and they may not retire. So I guess my earlier point was I don't remember this happening last summer.
I think that this has changed very dramatically, and it changed with what is happening in the Senate right now with the judicial nominees for the circuit courts and the courts of appeals, because they are really fighting harder, the minority party, and that's great that they're fighting harder. But at the same time, the reason why we have 9 justices on the Supreme Court is to bring those different points of view and to have those different points of view to look at the Constitution. But you're right, Andrea, I have never seen it gear up as quickly, and it's all about Roe versus Wade. And Roe versus Wade, the president has said he does not want to overturn it. He wants to change people's minds. And I know people want to read other things into that, but I think if one thing we've learned from this president is what he says is what he means.
Martha Zoller, Julian Epstein, thank you both for joining us this evening.
Good to be with you, Andrea.
Thank you.
In Iraq, U.S. soldiers in Fallujah came under attack as they patrolled near a mosque. U.S. Central Command says they returned fire and killed 1 person. 1 attacker apparently fled the scene. No U.S. forces were hurt in yesterday's incident. A grenade attack last week in the city killed 1 U.S. soldier and wounded 5 others. The Bush administration insists it was correct in its pre-war analysis of Iraq's threat, but with no hard proof yet of weapons of mass destruction, there are still many skeptics, including some in Congress. CNN Pentagon correspondent Chris Plant has the latest.
2 months after the fall of Saddam Hussein, and still no stockpiles of weapons of mass destruction have been found in Iraq. Pressure is mounting on President Bush and Prime Minister Tony Blair to show results or explain why. There have already been calls for a congressional investigation into what some are saying was an intelligence failure, or worse.
If our intelligence is either manipulated, or if it's shaded, or if in some way it is exaggerated, it is very, very dangerous for us, particularly as we go down the road and look at other threats.
Senior Bush administration officials hit the Sunday talk shows to stand by their intelligence assessments.
I do not think the intelligence was wrong. I think that the intelligence agencies had a plethora of data, many multiple sources. There were, of course, from weapons inspectors themselves, including from Hans Blix and his reports, discussions of the large quantities of missing agent, whether it was VX or sarin gas or mustard gas or anthrax.
Before the war, Secretary of State Colin Powell cited mobile biological weapons laboratories in his presentation to the UN. Labs, the U.S. says, that have been found.
One element that I presented at that time, these biological vans, all I could show was a cartoon drawing of these vans. And everybody said, are the vans really there? And voila, the vans showed up a few months later. We found them.
Recent polls do show that most Americans support the ouster of Saddam Hussein, even if the elusive weapons are not found. But the consequences for American credibility overseas could be substantial and long-lasting. Chris Plant, CNN, The Pentagon.
It's been a week of legal wrangling in the Laci Peterson case. Which decisions favor the prosecution and which favor defendant Scott Peterson? We'll get the views of some legal experts. And later,
I feel like my work is just like a drop.
She is fighting a human tragedy in her homeland. Hundreds of thousands of children orphaned by AIDS. Their story and how it's hitting home here in America when CNN Sunday continues.
Introducing the all-wheel drive Infiniti FX, the SUV with the heart of a sports car. The new Infiniti FX.
For me, everything's black and white. Balls in or balls out. Black and white, black and white. It's how it goes out there.
Now get a sleek new Nokia color phone from Singular. And get cool games like Skate and Slam and Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell, plus polyphonic ringtones. Get a great deal on a Nokia 3500 series color phone.
I call it the Todd Beebe Color My World plan.
Come in today and see how Singular fits you best.
Out here, the sun doesn't just set, it simmers. The trees are taller than buildings, and dreams are just a short step from reality. This is California, the Golden State. And the memories are here just waiting for you to find them. There are over 4 million miles of roads in Alamo Country. And with values like this, they're easy to explore. Alamo, the official rental car of the American vacation.
CNN Monday, Scott Peterson's judge keeps Lacey's autopsy sealed. The latest with Court TV's Nancy Grace and more. Only on Larry King Live, CNN Monday, 9 Eastern.
And cheers. What is that? What? It's good.
Would they run out of men's drinks?
What? No, give me that.
No, bad boy.
It's part of my drink.
No.
Guys have rules. Like no guy should ever be caught with inferior entertainment equipment, i.e. the dish. Instead, get Comcast and get more premium channels in Comcast Sports Southeast. Order Comcast digital cable today and ditch the dish.
Your loved one's comfort and well-being are your first priority. Williams Medical Supply has state-of-the-art medical equipment and supplies to assure your confidence and convenience. Boost yourself up and take over the driver's seat in the popular lift chair or Pride scooter from Williams Medical Supply. We're the patient's choice for healthcare equipment to rent or purchase. Free home delivery and setup. We file your Medicare and insurance forms for you if you qualify. Williams Medical Supply, the patient's choice.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
The focus in the Laci Peterson case lately has been the autopsy reports for Peterson and her unborn son. A judge has refused to unseal the results. What does it mean for both sides in the case? To try to help answer that, I'm joined by criminal defense attorney Jane Weintraub from Miami. Former prosecutor and Court TV anchor James Curtis will join us from New York in a moment. Ms. Weintraub, who benefits right now, the fact that they're unsealed?
Well, I think that ultimately the defense will benefit from the autopsy itself, and that means there's no manner of death, Andrea. As we all know, it doesn't matter whether it's sealed or unsealed at this point. I think it's a bunch of gruesome details about torsos that were washed ashore, and so I think that would hurt the defense right now to have all of that inflammatory material come out. But the bottom line is the autopsy results are out, and they're out, and it says that the manner of death is unknown. They're labeling it a homicide, but they're saying they don't know how the homicide occurred. Well, he's charged with first-degree murder, and they're seeking the death penalty against him, and that means that they must prove premeditation. There are only three ways to do that. One way is through the body, a gunshot wound or a stabbing. That's easy to show premeditation. You don't have that in this case, so that's one element the state now will have to come up some other way to try and prove. I think that they're not going to be able to prove it because we haven't seen anything else. The only other two ways to prove first-degree murder would be a confession to the police, which Scott Peterson has not confessed, and the third way would be an eyewitness of some sort or someone else that he admitted it to, and we don't have that either. So frankly, I don't know how they're going to prove premeditation in this case. I don't think they will. And ultimately, I think the defense will benefit from the fact that the autopsy cannot and will not be able to come up with a manner of death in the case.
So if you are the prosecution right now, and as you said, you don't have an eyewitness, what is the motive that you're going to be able to use behind Scott Peterson? The fact that he was having an affair?
I think that the prosecution has put much too much faith in this Amber Frey business, much too much motive, and I think that Amber Frey is the prosecution's worst nightmare. I really do. She's got this lawyer, she's got this makeover going, she's got a big credibility piece of luggage that she just brought to them that they didn't need. So again, from the prosecutor's point of view, unless they've got some real circumstantial evidence, which I have not seen or heard of anything yet so far that'll hold up in a court of law, I don't think they're going to make it past this case at all. I really don't. I don't see a conviction at all.
Why did they decide to bring it to trial now then? You would think that they could benefit by having a little more time to do some more police work.
Well, according to the leaks and what we've read in the AP, the prosecutors, I think, erroneously thought that he was going to flee and they prematurely arrested him. And I say erroneously because, remember, Scott Peterson had already been to Mexico and come back. He was under 24-hour surveillance by the police, and he knew it. So, Andrew, if he was going to flee, they would have been able to really track him, and that would have been evidence of guilt, consciousness of guilt fleeing. Here, what they did is they stopped short of letting him go ahead to see if he would flee, and they stopped him. We'll never know, and I don't think he was fleeing because he lived right near the border growing up, and he was staying at his parents' house, and he was going home to Lee and Jackie Peterson, his parents, every night, and they were in touch with his lawyer, Kirk McAllister. So everyone knew where Scott was. I think the body's washed up and the cops just jumped on it. That's what I think.
James Curtis in New York, you are following this trial day in and day out. How do you think things are shaping up right now for the defense?
Well, let me respond to a couple of things Ms. Weintraub pointed out. First of all, this idea that he wasn't fleeing and the idea that the prosecution was premature. Let's take a look at how long they spent on developing this case, really doing such a thorough investigation. No one who's really seriously discussing this case could possibly think that after the fiasco that the O.J. Simpson trial turned into, that any prosecutor's office on any high-profile case would not move before they had all their evidence lined up. And what about the passport? What about the hair dye? What about the fake name and the makeup making himself look like his brother whose passport he had? In terms of the leaks, I think that the leaks still favor the defense in large part, and the defense essentially got what they want as a result of the hearing that was held just the other day.
But the fact that they don't have an eyewitness, the fact that they don't have any hard evidence that we know of, at least, that would link Scott Peterson to the deaths of his wife and his unborn child, doesn't that mean then that the type of charges that can be brought against him, whether he's going to be tried under first or second degree murder, are really hanging in the balance right now?
Not at all, not at all. First of all, we don't really know what the prosecution has. Let's keep that in mind. This is as early as as early as anyone can remember of any significant media attention being given to a trial. This is before the preliminary hearing. This is before any evidence has been brought out in trial. So to the extent that the prosecution does or does not have a strong case, that will be seen to some extent, and even not entirely, in the preliminary hearing. And I stand by what I say with respect to these particular prosecutors in having not moved or wouldn't have moved without having everything together, all their evidence tied up. They filed the first-degree murder charges after getting all that evidence, after a lengthy investigation. I've got to believe that they have what they say that they have.
Ms. Weintraub, a final thought?
I still say they have no premeditation. I still say they were diving afterwards in the bay looking for evidence. It's no time to look for evidence after they've deprived him of his liberty. And I look forward to watching the preliminary hearing. And by the way, James, I would remind you that with Robert Blake, they did a lot of media frenzy before the preliminary hearing. And I think everyone was surprised during the preliminary hearing that the ultimate decision by the judge was to give the man a bond. And
oh, that was only bail. Who cares about bail? That doesn't have anything to do with the conviction. As you know, the investigation will continue up until that jury goes out to deliberate, and that's perfectly fine and normal.
James Curtis and Jane Weintraub, thanks so much. We'll be checking back in with you guys, I'm sure, in the weeks and months ahead. Dying for a chance. Coming up, stories of tragedy and hope. Hundreds of thousands of children orphaned by AIDS. Keeping the faith. Will Martha's fans stand by the domestic diva now that she's retooling her image in the wake of a legal scandal? And could Hillary Clinton's memoir turn a new page in her political career? All that ahead on CNN Sunday.
It's powerful. It's beautiful. I can see that. How did they make it so incredibly smooth? It's technical.
Antonio! Tonight you'll drive my car.
Again?
Again.
Introducing the entirely new Lexus RX 330. Putting the world on notice. Again.
When you manage the kind of money we do,
Morning, Ted. Richard?
you tend to be a little more demanding. Evergreen. Investments that stand the test of time.
Will he do something he likes?
Will he make the right choices? What kind of person will he be?
Will she be happy?
And healthy?
All parents have hopes and dreams for their kids. But one thing is certain about their future.
Then what should you have to do?
It will be brighter. lives healthier. Talk to your kids about not smoking. They'll listen.
On the road and stuck trying to get business email in all the wrong places? Get Verizon Wireless Email Access and your data will travel on America's most reliable wireless network.
Can you hear me now? Good.
For all your company's wireless needs, we mean business. Verizon Wireless. We never stop working for you.
Every day, all over the world, millions of people receive Adobe PDFs. But few realize just how simple they are to create. Which begs the question, is it better to give a PDF or to receive one? The PDF from Adobe Acrobat.
Let's check the headlines at this hour. Police in San Jose, California say surveillance video taken from a neighbor's house shows that a 9-year-old girl kidnapped Friday was targeted. They say the abductor spent about 12 minutes in Jeanette Tamayo's empty home before going back out to his car and waiting. Police say he went back inside when the girl came home. A new survey shows gas prices have dipped nearly 2 cents over the past 3 weeks to an average of about $1 a gallon nationwide. Prices have been on the decline for 11 straight weeks, but the survey's publisher says that could end soon. Among the signs, the price of crude oil is actually rising. A new version of a computer worm dubbed Bugbear B is making its way across the internet. Experts say it targets computers storing financial information by recording keystrokes in an attempt to steal passwords. The company's software Simnatech says that a patch that can block the worm is available online. And Secretary of State Colin Powell says there's no doubt whatsoever that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction before the war in Iraq. Powell says the White House was confident about the intelligence it received. He says reports suggesting intelligence experts were uncertain were misleading. More than any other continent, Africa has been ravaged by HIV and AIDS. The virus has been devastating, infecting millions of people each year. And in Ethiopia, it's led to a new crisis, about 1 million children orphaned by AIDS. Earlier this year, I traveled there to report on and to film this story.
11-year-old Mitiku Migusai's key unlocks a room of nightmares. Here in this dark, damp, dirt-filled shed, suitable for animals but certainly not a child, Mitiku lives all alone.
Certificate from his church that he is baptized.
Mitiku's father, mother, and both brothers have all died of AIDS, leaving this traumatized little boy on his own. Not far away, 15-year-old Ainalem Eshete wipes away a tear. Since her parents and step-parents died of AIDS, this shy, soft-spoken teenager must now somehow raise 2 small children, one of whom is HIV positive. These days you can say, I'm thinking of myself as an old woman, she says. There is a big change for me. My previous friends won't talk to me.
No one knows the exact number, but the best estimate is that there are about 1 million Ethiopian children, just like these, who've lost either one or both of their parents to the AIDS epidemic.
A tiny fraction are fortunate enough to find shelter in an orphanage like this one, run by Ababich Gobena in Ethiopia's capital. Gobena is a big-hearted woman who started with 2 children 23 years ago. Today, 150 orphans, some only days old, find food, shelter, and love under her roof. A handful of the orphans are themselves HIV positive, and although they don't know it, likely to die. I like it because I get milk and special things to eat, says 6-year-old Ayop Antisiop. Antisiop and the other HIV positive orphans think they're in a special club that gets to eat alone. We don't tell the other children, says Gobena. There may be a stigma. We feed them a good diet, but we don't have medicine.
When it comes to AIDS orphans, most of them, not all, but most of them face loneliness and no support. And it's not easy to lose two parents within a very short time.
Yawinet Masresha founded Hope for Children, a small community-based support program for about 100 AIDS orphans and some mothers who are HIV positive.
I feel like my work is just like a drop, because there are a lot of, I know it really, I know it that there are a lot of children even in this area who need great support.
Unlike some African countries, Ethiopia has declared a national emergency over the HIV epidemic and says 13% or 3 million of its citizens are infected. There is an awareness and prevention campaign, and the government says a new program will be rolled out soon.
We have had a targeted campaign in the army here, and the result is that the infection rate in the army is lower than the infection rate in the general population. Now, if we could target the army, sex workers, transportation workers, there are some groups which are more vulnerable than others.
But it's too late for this 23-year-old widow and mother of 4 who tested positive for AIDS just last month. Yes, I feel that I'm dying, she sobs. If there were 1 or 2 children, it would be easier for me to find them homes, but there are 4.
Some children have been fortunate enough to have found loving homes. Helen Samuel is one of them. She's here with her adoptive mother, Melissa Faye Green. Helen's sister, Lily, is also here. And I should also say that you are the reason that I did this story in the first place, because of the beautiful piece that you did in the New York Times before Christmas. Tell us how you met Helen and what inspired you initially to adopt an Ethiopian child.
We have loved raising our children. My husband and I have 4 children by birth. We have a son adopted from Bulgaria. My husband, Don Samuel, says we're backfilling. Every time a child gets ready to go off to college, we need to, because we haven't finished renovating the basement yet, you see, and to have all the children leave and we're still, got construction going, would just be foolish. Plus, we already own all the Lego sets ever made. So we started thinking a couple of years ago about adopting again. The headlines are full of the HIV/AIDS pandemic in Africa. Africa's being called a continent of orphans. We saw that Ethiopia is being called a nation of children. We thought it seemed obvious. If there were African children available for adoption, let's look and let's see if any of those children are allowed to be adopted out to American families. So
you got on a plane and you went to Ethiopia?
No, it's not so easy. Called lots of organizations checking around how can African children be adopted. There are 2 American adoption agencies that have the permission of the Ethiopian government to place Ethiopian children with families in the United States. And those are Americans for African Adoptions and the agency we used, which is Adoption Advocates International, which is based in Washington State. Talked to those agencies. Those are the only 2 at this point that have the permission of the Ethiopian government. Independent adoptions are not permitted by Ethiopia. We filled out tons of paperwork. We did home studies. We have our very own social worker. Then we made contact with the agency and started getting videos and newsletters of children waiting for homes. And they're, as you see on the tape, they are beautiful, lively, bright children.
And there are 1 million, which I found so astounding, 1 million children like Helen.
And the awful thing is those are just the children orphaned by AIDS. If you add in the children orphaned by TB and malaria and yellow fever, diseases preventable in the West, the numbers are multiples of that. And they're lovely children. When I was able to visit, I got the New York Times to send me over there. By then we knew we were adopting Helen, but to step onto the orphanage playground is like stepping onto any orphanage of a school in America. They're just the most lively.
The children that we're seeing right now were actually children that were not in an orphanage. These were kids that were digging for bits of wood or whatnot that they could use then to sell as scrap. But tell us about Helen, who is this remarkable, soon-to-be 7, your birthday's coming up, little girl who you've had now in your family for a little over a year.
Well, Lily, who's just turned 11, was stuck in the house with 3 brothers since our oldest child, a daughter, Molly, was at Oberlin College. And Lily said, we just can't go on like this. This is ridiculous. And when we started getting the newsletter of the waiting children with these, beautiful little faces, these are all children who were raised lovingly by families, normal childhoods, were in school, had errands, had pets, had grandparents, had the whole family life. And it's just being wiped out by AIDS. And in the wake of AIDS, here comes famine. Anyway, Lily saw this little photograph and said, Helen, this is my sister. This is who we need. We got a video then of Helen singing a little song. We were tricked. We were tricked into thinking it was a very quiet and shy child, and she is appearing shy here on CNN.
Every
but in
little
fact,
child
she's a
I know that comes on.
chatterbox.
Well, show us some of Helen's work that she has done. She's done this beautiful artwork, and you also said that her English is amazing now.
Well, Helen, when she first came, we didn't know she knew English. She was only speaking to Lily and only in Amharic. She was whispering to Lily in Amharic. Lily doesn't speak Amharic, doing it.
Not
An
yet.
Atlanta girl. Not yet. She speaks some now. Here's a beautiful.
Oh, it's gorgeous. If you want to hold that up. We have just about a minute left. I want you to tell us, because the root of this problem is not adoption, even though it's wonderful, but it's actually getting medication.
Well, the heartbreaking thing is why are these lovely children being orphaned when the medications exist in the Western world, in this country?
And
AIDS
why
is
aren't they
virtually
getting
a
there?
chronic disease. Why aren't they getting there? Let's do a story together about that. Why aren't they getting there? It's a complicated story. Government's slow to respond to the crisis, lack of health infrastructure, reluctance of pharmaceutical companies to release their patents to be made as generics. But they're wonderful children. She was a beloved only child. She came to us reading and writing in 2 languages, Amharic and English. Lily was one of the first to discover. Helen was lying in bed at night reading an English Amharic dictionary. She was 5. And the older kids saw that and said, no, They said, what's this word? They pointed to the word accountant. And Helen said, and she wasn't speaking yet, but she went like this. And then they pointed to the word onlooker, and she read it in English and Amharic and went like this.
No,
she was reading in 2 languages. She kept a journal in Amharic when she came.
Oh.
So they're just lovely kids. For those, for the million orphans, it would be wonderful for them to find adoptive homes. Let's try to not have millions more be orphaned by getting drugs over there.
Melissa Fay Green, I can't thank you enough for inspiring me to do this story, but also for bringing such a wonderful child here to your home and to the United States. Helen and Lily, thank you both so much.
Yeah.
It's a bumpy road. In an attempt to halt peace efforts, militant groups in the Middle East launch another deadly attack. And Martha Stewart's fans boosted her to fame and fortune, but will the company fall without the Queen of Crafts?
When my doctor said Zocor was right for me, I stayed with it. Ask your doctor if Zocor could work for you. Zocor. Be there.
Let's stay together.
Benefits actually creates a secure environment. I have a very simple view of life. It's how do you struggle between balancing all the different things in life and yet maintain a sense of control or calmness. You want to adhere to the company mandate about containing benefit costs. You also are the front line to handle the employees that has difficulties with their benefit issues.
Every benefits manager has a story to tell. At Cigna, we provide employee benefits that hear them. Cigna, a business of caring.
I didn't believe it at first, but then I used it.
Now people are calling all across America for an incredible rate of 3 cents a minute and 39 cents to connect with 1010-987. And that 3 cents gets you Canada and Western Europe, too.
I talked to my boyfriend in Athens for 3 cents a minute.
With 1010-987, there's nothing to sign up for, so you can use it right now.
Why commit to a calling plan? I only pay for the calls I make.
1010-987. A rate this low never went so far.
At CDW, account managers help you choose the IT products right for you. So we read a lot of product manuals. Open. They're great. My husband likes spy novels, but give me a modular access router manual any day. Then Mama Bear routes the frame directly to the switch port. I love the way this one ends.
For account managers who know all about the IT products you need, you can always expect more from CDW.
Lexus ES. An automobile so luxurious, we've thought of everything, even special lease and financing rates.
Next, Mother Nature's fury and the hotshots who battle her intense blazes. See what it's like to fight fire with fire. CNN presents Summer of Fire. Coming up next on CNN.
Let's take a look now at some of the stories making headlines around the world. 3 militant Palestinian groups have claimed joint responsibility for an attack this morning on an Israeli military checkpoint in Gaza. The Israeli military says 4 of its soldiers were killed in the attack. The Israeli justice minister tells CNN the attack was expected and did not end the quest for peace. French troops are moving into the war-ravaged town of Bunia, Congo. They're trying to stop the fighting between rival tribal militias who've killed hundreds of people there. About 100 French troops arrived on Friday, and a few armored vehicles were flown in. Hundreds more French troops are also on the way. And in Addis Ababa, about 30,000 people today attended the wedding of 2 Ethiopian world-class long-distance runners. The event was dedicated to the fight against AIDS, a disease that, as we told you earlier, is ravaging the African nation. The bride's record-setting veil was decorated with red ribbons. What's in a name? Can Martha Stewart's company survive without Martha Stewart? And could Hillary Clinton's new book, Living History, be a foreshadowing of a bigger political future?
Hello, John? Oh, I lost the signal. Go forward. Go forward. Hello, hello. Stop! All right, back up. Yeah, right there. That's good. Oh. My boss is going to kill me.
Searching for a wireless signal your business can count on?
When we're back here.
With Verizon Wireless, you can make business calls on the nation's most reliable wireless network.
Can you hear me now? Good.
For all your company's wireless needs, we mean business. Verizon Wireless. We never stop working for you.
Tired of unwanted mail? Get the new AOL for broadband with anti-spam and pop-up controls. Welcome to the worldwide wow. Call now to sign up.
Innovation. It happens when form and function come together. And for 75 years, Craftsman has designed innovative tools. For the most revolutionary thing to happen to a wrench, look no further than the Craftsman reversible ratcheting wrench. The unique ratcheting end means you won't have to reposition your wrench. Plus, it delivers a 5-degree ratcheting arc, so you can quickly tighten and loosen the most stubborn fasteners, even in tight spots. Switch the reverse lever and easily change directions. And this wrench's offset design gives generous clearance, so no more scraped hands or knuckles. This ratcheting wrench will stand up to your toughest jobs. And this 5-piece set at 50% off is just $39.99. Made in the USA and guaranteed forever. From Craftsman, the #1 tool brand in America. Craftsman makes anything possible.
Call now to order your 5-piece reversible ratcheting wrench set, just $39.99. Call 1-800-403-8833.
Monday on CNN Early Prime at 5 Eastern. Top stories on Wolf Blitzer reports. Then at 6, a point of view you can only get from Lou Dobbs Moneyline. And at 7, live from the headlines with Paula Zahn. CNN Monday beginning at 5 Eastern.
CNN Tuesday, Senator Hillary Clinton speaks out in her first live interview for her new tell-all book. She talks about everything. Senator Hillary Clinton, in depth and personal. Only on Larry King Live, CNN Tuesday, 9 Eastern.
On the day Martha Stewart was indicted on criminal charges linked to alleged insider trading, the price of her company's stock actually rose nearly 50 cents. But in the long term, the picture may be a little cloudier, and success could depend on the faithful. CNN's Cece Rogers reports.
I think she's brought good taste to the masses and made it accessible. And for that, I think she should be sainted.
I'd rather stick with her until I find out. I feel that she has been somewhat singled out.
Even as the icon of good taste made her color-coordinated perp walk, fans were pouring out their support on a Save Martha website.
and calling her indictment a tempest in a Cuisinart. Outside Kmart, where Martha Stewart's sheets, towels, and other household goods are sold, opinions were more varied.
I think she's done a lot for Kmart and for the Kmart image. And I was just talking to my mom yesterday about it, and we both said, well, we really like her things, so I'm going to keep on buying them.
I don't believe that the quality, the name behind it is going to be a name that I want to be associated with in my household. You know, she's crooked there.
A marketing firm that measures consumer loyalty said Martha Stewart's index fell following her indictment.
I'm watching the prices.
From a high of 120 14 months ago to 79 the morning after she was indicted. Still, most of the Martha faithful appear to be differentiating between Martha the person and Martha the merchandiser.
I love her towels because they're soft, so I don't think I'll stop using them because she's in trouble, whatever.
I have kids, and so I try and look at her kids' magazines and try and make some press, but, you know, come on. You know, I live in the real world, you know.
So it appears the future of Martha's business will depend on her customers and fans separating the real-world indictments from the products they love. Martha now waits for her day in court. The question is, will her fans still support the domestic diva, even if she has to exchange her apron for a government-issued tangerine jumpsuit? Cece Rogers, CNN Financial News, Chicago.
Coming up is Hillary Clinton starting a new chapter in her political life with her new book as a prelude to the presidency. We'll talk about her new memoir and whether this look back at the past could become a springboard to a presidential future.
Has anybody checked the interior?
Some of the finest leather I've ever seen.
Premium leather.
Rear seat DVD entertainment system.
Entertainment system.
And navigation.
Power rear door.
11 speaker Mark Levinson audio.
Mark Levinson audio.
It's a camera. It's a rear view camera.
Introducing the entirely new Lexus RX 330. Putting the world on notice again.
CNN Monday, Hillary Clinton's in the headlines. Her controversial book finally hits the stores. How it plays with the public and the critics. Wolf Blitzer reports 5 p.m. Eastern.
You know, before Laura goes to college, I was thinking she could use her own car.
Sure. VHIX.com makes it easy to design exactly the car you want.
You're giving our daughter that brand new $50,000 coupe.
No, I'm giving our daughter that slightly used hatchback in the garage.
Because when you're happy, everyone's happy.
This, just my replacement vehicle.
VHIX.com, roadmap to the automotive world.
Over the years, your garage door takes quite a beating, and many older garage doors are dangerous, especially for kids. So when your old garage door finally gives up, have a Wayne Dalton garage door and opener installed. This garage door is safer, stronger, and with a Wayne Dalton garage door opener, you'll have a garage door system you can rely on.
For Wayne Dalton, call Allied Overhead Door Company in Nashville, 244-6447.
Intimidated? Leave it in the trunk of your car with your tennis shoes. Worried? Come on. They make an oversized driver with a huge sweet spot, especially for this occasion. Afraid of the water? Ball's not. After all, you've done this 101 times in your head. Just make this number 102.
Catch Rich Beam in the PGA Tour's best this season on ABC Sports.
CNN, the most trusted name in news.
The wait's almost over. Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton's revealing White House memoir, Living History, hits bookstores tomorrow. Political circles have been abuzz since tidbits from the book were leaked last week. Presidential historian Douglas Brinkley joins us to talk about the phenomenon. He's the director of the Eisenhower Center for American Studies at the University of New Orleans. Mr. Brinkley, obviously Hillary Clinton, we all know, was an incredibly private person. How much of the timing of the release of this autobiography has to do with her wanting to air her own dirty laundry ahead of a potential presidential run?
Well, I think that's a part of it. It's also a natural cycle. I mean, she left her role as First Lady. She signed a big contract. She needs the money, wants the money. Has been working on this for a few years after leaving the White House. The timing's good. I don't think she wanted to release it when the Democratic candidates, the Liebermans and Kerrys and Gephardts were getting all the headlines. So it's a bit of a lull in the Democratic political world. So it's I think, a very good time for her to release this book.
Looking back on previous First Ladies, how many others have written their own autobiographies?
You go back. I worked on a book on the Mississippi River a few years ago, and I read the memoir of Grant's wife. Going back to the Civil War, you can go through and look at the letters of Abigail Adams, which are just a big part of David McCullough's wonderful book on John Adams. And in recent years, you can go pick up the memoirs of all of them. Betty Ford's story, Rosalind Carter, Nancy Reagan, on, Barbara Bush. So it's a pretty normal thing these days when you leave the White House, both the First Lady and the ex-president write a memoir.
What do you think the average reader can expect to get out of this book, knowing Hillary Clinton both as a sitting legislator and as a former First Lady?
Well, I think a few things. I think your first question was, this is a time for her to kind of clear the air a little bit. There's been a bit of a shadow that she over her political career, the fact that when she ran for Senate, she never grappled with the whole Lewinsky affair. Many strategists felt that she couldn't go further in political life. You can't go much further than being a Democratic senator from New York, but the White House, if she's eyeing it in 2008, this issue had to be dealt with. If dealt with effectively in the memoir, and it becomes a #1 bestseller and it earns out its money and people take her at her word for what's been said in this book, then I think in the long run it'll help her. It puts that issue behind her. To raise it 2 years from now or 3 years from now will seem very tiresome, and programs like this on CNN aren't going to want to run it anymore because we already had her say and had her a few days where we talked about it.
What do you think this book is going to do, not just for Mrs. Clinton's future political career, but also for her husband? And even though he's not necessarily going to run again, but what do you think that's going to do for him?
Well, that's an interesting question. First off, remember, Hillary Clinton doesn't model herself like those other First Ladies in recent times. She really is an Eleanor Roosevelt person, and I think she sees her career as having this kind of political to resonate the way Eleanor Roosevelt did. Bill Clinton now is in a position of possibly becoming first man, of being the key Democratic strategist for Hillary Clinton. And there is no doubt about it, Bill and Hillary still attract not just tabloid headlines, but mainstream headlines, and they're great fundraisers. And I think Bill Clinton is going to open up his library in Little Rock. He's going to write his own book. And when you see the Democratic Party in Boston next summer, you're going to find that the Clintons get one of the largest ovations and are going to be the kind of the couple that steals the thunder at the Democratic Convention.
There was a great cartoon after the two of them left office in which it showed Bill Clinton sitting there with writer's block clearly, and Hillary sitting next to him just writing away, and clearly she was the one to get her book done first. What is her legacy as First Lady?
I honestly think their legacy at First Lady is having to deal with the whole Lewinsky scandal, to put up with that kind of public humiliation. And I think it's a legacy of tenacity. Many people would have either left Bill Clinton in that situation or crumbled under the pressure. Instead, she kind of pulled herself together and ran for the Senate in New York, which was no easy thing, and she ran a smart campaign with few errors and won. And so now people have to look at her both as being part of a partnership, the Clintons, but also as a woman in her own right. So I think she's achieved a great deal of credibility with people since she left office on that one stead, the fact that she could have crumbled, but instead she hung in there. On the downside, I think sometimes people see her as a political operative, not a leader, and that's somebody who would do anything to promote her own self and to kind of push her fame and fortune forward. And I think that people are going to have to scrutinize her record in the U.S. Senate. She did not leave that sort of a distinguished record as, say, an Eleanor Roosevelt or even a Jackie Kennedy did as First Lady.
Well, and now she can add author to her name. Douglas Brinkley, thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And a quick reminder, be sure to tune in to CNN Tuesday night for Larry King Live. He'll be talking with Senator Clinton herself. That's Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern only here on CNN. And with that, we wrap up the program tonight. Thanks so much for watching. A check of the headlines is up next, and then CNN presents Summer of Fire.
Checked the interior.
Some of the finest leather I've ever seen.
Premium leather.
Rear seat DVD entertainment system.
Entertainment system.
And navigation.
Power rear door.
11 speaker Mark Levinson audio.
Mark Levinson audio.
It's a camera. It's a rear view camera.
Introducing the entirely new Lexus RX 330. Putting the world on notice again.
The Double Play,